It's been a long time I've ever posted 2 videos in a row, and even rarer, both in English. One is about tariff war, the other condolences and comments on Pope Francis, who has just passed away. Although the total number of views for both are tiny comparing to most of other YouTubers, I just can't ignore the difference between the two. The one about tariff war garnered over 60 times more views than the other. Looks like people are more attracted to conflict than peace. Well, I'm obliged. Let's talk war once again. The US government, especially more so some ruling elites and think tanks, love to threaten China with all kinds of wars. Trade war, tech war, propaganda war, financial war, so on and so forth. And now the tariff war. Frédéric Bastiat, economist and former deputy of the French National Assembly, had famously said, "When goods don't cross borders, soldiers will." History has somewhat proven this is true to a high degree. Then it wouldn't be too outlandish to beg the question, would Trump's tariff war lead the US to a hot war with China eventually, if a determined China refused to back down? In order to put a finger on the pulse, let's see what has happened in the past. There seems to be this wild curse that US can't seem to shake off whenever China is involved in a war, directly or indirectly. Some Americans love throwing around the war word like they've got a cheat code to beat China. But history's like, hold my beer. Let's flip through the history books and roast some facts. Whenever the US faces a foe with made in China support, their victory trophies turn to dust. Round number 1. Korean War. The US thought, we just won World War II. Let's help South Korea push north. Have a picnic by the Yalu River. By the way, that's North Korea's borderline with China. Easy claps. As for China, since ancient times, regarding nations on the Korean peninsula as its protectorate, could not and would not sit idle, and beg the question to the US. Picnic, my dude, the volunteer army's cooking pots said no. Overconfident General MacArthur promised his subordinates home by Christmas, but China's ice sculpture brigade, troops frozen in trenches that is, scared him into changing his wish to just let me survive. The outcome, the US signed its first we didn't win armistice and developed a lifelong phobia of the 38th parallel. In the end, Omar Bradley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States, stated at a congressional hearing, the Korean War was the wrong war, fought in the wrong place, at the wrong time, and against the wrong enemy. Round 2. Vietnam War. Not far from the disaster of the Korean War, US had planned another adventure. Okay, Korea was a fluke. Vietnam's got to work. We've got helicopters, napalm, and South Vietnamese allies. Easy peasy. Seeing the fire of war raging to its border once again, China could not pretend there was no risk to its national security and decided to assist the North Vietnamese. First, China shipped 2 million tons of gear to North Vietnam, even ripped up its own railways to send steel across the border. Followed up by sending in anti-air squad Chinese artillery crews in Vietnam, shot down US planes, literally, protecting the Ho Chi Minh Trail, aka America's highway to misery. Outcome? Even worse for the Americans. The US blew $400 billion, lost 58,000 troops, and fled Saigon in a helicopter evacuation. US ally, the South Vietnam puppet government on its own lasted only just 2 years plus 1 month. North Vietnam won. Even more ironic, it was with the secret help from the Chinese government who nudged its comrade in arms, the Viet Cong, to the Paris Peace Accords in 1973, which effectively let the US off the hook. What the US gave to China in return is all but history laid bare for everyone to see. Round 3, Afghanistan War. After the ending of the Cold War, the balance of power was totally tilted towards the US. As the last one standing, the US self-confidence level shot through the roof. Now we can tell the whole world, my way or highway. As for the Taliban, they are just a bunch of sandal-wearing rookies. We will turn Afghanistan into a mini-America in 20 years. This time around, China decided not worth the hassle, but rather did a silent grind. China built the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and whispered to the Taliban, finish your war, then let's build roads too. Taliban was not without buffs. Guerrilla tactics plus Chinese-made body armor gear from EU markets fought back hard. US drones couldn't beat the graveyard of empires vibe. Outcome? Just as bad as the Vietnam War. The US left so fast, they forgot to turn off the embassy's Wi-Fi in Kabul. The Taliban live-streamed with US weapons. Thanks for the gear, fam. Now with China looking more and more likely to regain the center stage of the human development on the planet Earth, the rumors have been doing the rounds about the US has got a Taiwan card in its sleeve, sending warships in and around the Taiwan Strait, selling more and more outdated weapons to Taiwan, offering lip services to the separatists on the island, trolling the Chinese people with its allies whenever it feels like it. Simply put, the US playing fire with China. On the looks of it, the US acts tough, but in essence, it all sounds like a tone-deaf karaoke singer. All noise, no rhythm. Let me summarize the China curse laws for the US as following. First, the geography rule. The closer the war is to China, the harder the US fails. Second, the time rule. The longer the war, the more China's passive skills kick in. US supplies crumble, protests explode, enemies get richer. Last but not least, the gear rule. Even China's hand-me-downs make US tech feel useless. Today, even more so. Here is my PSA to the Pentagon or whoever represents the US government and her elite class. Next time you're gonna start a war, check if the enemy's got China in its contacts, let alone against China herself. If yes, just quit while you are ahead. Just a reminder, Russia is China's neighbor too. Jokes aside, peace wins. China is simply too busy farming, building skyscrapers, and rolling out 5G to play war games. Not with the US or anyone for that matter.